Los Angeles, I'm in most Hollywood nights. She goes to California, oh, California.
What you say about Los Angeles?
LA got the people saying,
You're listening to Corner of the Galaxy on cornerofthegalaxy.com. It's time for another episode of Corner of the Galaxy from the Box, the show that gets you behind the scenes of the LA Galaxy and into the minds of soccer reporters and MLS experts. Your hosts for the day are Corner of the Galaxy's Josh Guesman and LA Times soccer reporter Kevin Baxter. Let's start the show.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Corner of the Galaxy from the Box on cornerofthegalaxy.com. I'm your host, Josh Guesman, coming to you on a Monday, September 18th. LA Galaxy 4-2 losers in El Trafico over the weekend. Disgusting little game, especially there at the end. We're going to talk about that and how the LA Galaxy had a point and then threw it all away. So we'll discuss that as we get you ready for Minnesota in the game that actually really matters this week. I told you before the El Trafico was probably the least exciting or at least expected or the least juiced El Trafico going into it because the game really didn't matter as much as everybody wanted it to. Now we're talking about games that matter all the way down the stretch, and it's going to be for the rest of the season. So a lot to get to, a lot to talk about. We're glad to have him back with us. It's Kevin the Panda Baxter. Kev, how you doing, bud?
All right, how are you?
You know what? I am surviving. Surviving COVID negative. I made it. I told you I was going to dodge it. I dodged it. Little left, little right. If you could dodge a wrench, you can dodge a ball. So no problems there. I survived. How about you? Doing okay?
Yeah, I'm wearing the suit and tie today because, as you know, we won the award for greatest podcast in the world of soccer
ever,
as you know. And I just thought, it's time for us to get a little classy. I mean, you're there doing the pod in your pajamas, and I decided that I got the prize here. Here it is.
There we go. That's
there
awesome.
it is. And I'd really like to thank the Academy, of course, the studios, my parents, and my loving wife, Mrs. Panda, for all the little people, for all the support that they've given us over the years. And we couldn't have done it without them. I'd like to thank all the little people for making this award necessary.
If you didn't know, and if you didn't have Twitter, you're on social media, but in some sort of, and I don't mean this to denigrate the magnitude of what was done for all the people who voted for us and all that stuff, but randomly, someone decided to put together a best of MLS Twitter communities types awards, and they were like the best team-based podcast, and then they had everybody nominate people, and you guys were awesome, and you nominated us, and then they took the top 4. And we won on the nomination side in terms of I think we got the most nominations, and then we cleaned up the floor with everything, mostly because, and I will be very clear about this, one, the LA Galaxy Twitter family always shows up whenever I ask nicely, so that's nice, and two is I've been doing this for 15 years and 11,000 Twitter followers and 1,100 shows and all this stuff, almost 1,100 shows, we're about 40 shows away, 1,100 shows. That's I mean, this was a popularity contest, but more it was about who could drive the most people to the polls. And the good thing is I have some awesome friends. Sophie, co-host, was out there trying to rile up some votes. By the way, she texted me, and she's traveling out of the country. We're gonna have her back on whenever she gets back. Much love to Sophie. She's over in Greece with her family. So she's doing that. And so she texted me from Greece, and she was like, hey, she goes, did we win yet? And I go, no. And she goes, I got some people to vote. One of them just happens to be Miley Cyrus's percussionist. So we had that going for us, all right? So we were already well on our way whenever Miley Cyrus hopped on board there. Not actually her, but somebody, in her band.
I don't know if it's so much a popularity contest as it's a beauty contest. And since I'm on there with you, that's
we should have lost.
Why we won.
We should have lost. Yes.
But I believe if you check the small print of my contract that there is a rider in there which doubles my pay if we win an international award, which we clearly have just done.
This is clearly it. This is absolutely 100% what it was. But anyway, Fabian put this together. Great. It's really awesome. I'm super honored that we were even mentioned. I was sort of joking with it. It's like, I don't know that we've ever been like really nominated for this. And if you're talking about me, I know that one person who wasn't on this that should have been on this was Seeing Red, the New York Red Bulls, and my good friend Mark Fishkin over on the other side of the country has been doing this as long as I have. And he puts out a quality product there as well. And so if in my idea of the Twitter world of the best team-based MLS podcast, it would be us against Mark. And we would win. But it would be close because Mark puts out a great show too.
Let me say the first sincere, truthful thing I probably ever said on this pod, which is, I mean, you deserve a lot of credit for this because you've been doing this for 15 years. People don't know that obviously you don't get paid for this. There's no sponsorships. You've been offered money for this pod and you wanted to keep it because it's a labor of love. You do this twice a week. It's very professional. I mean, the intro and everything, it's very professional. And it has to be because we're in Hollywood. I mean, you're actually in Costa Mesa, but I mean, it has to.
And you're just south of
Valencia,
Seattle.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, a lot of film shooting done up here, TV shooting done up here in Valencia, Santa Clarita. But it has to be.
Wait a minute. Are we allowed to talk about those films, though? I don't think we are. Continue.
Well, there are some films.
Yeah.
But it has to be professionally done. It has to look right. It has to sound right. You're always on me about the sound. And obviously I don't listen because the sound's never any good, but it's very professionally done. It's a labor of love. And the other thing about it is I've been on other pods and I'll talk to the people before the show and not so much show prep, but just maybe during the week. And it's like, hey, who do they play this weekend? I don't know. You know, who's injured? I don't know. You and I talk maybe 10 or 15 times a week, easy, about, I just talked to Greg and he said this. Well, I heard from another guy this. You're always working the angles and working the stories and coming to the podcast prepared. And that's why I do this, because I like working with you. It's not a fanboy podcast. It's not we. It's not, this is what I think of my team that I have season tickets for. It's, hey, I was talking to the president of the Seattle Sounders, and here's what he said about the Galaxy's acquisitions at the break.
Right.
It's professionally done, and it's a real credit to you because I don't get paid, so I'm assuming you don't get paid.
That's what I keep telling you. So just keep going with that. No, I mean, here's the other thing that I don't think people realize is that yes, I do it twice a week, and the fun stat is always who has never missed a podcast. And the answer is me, because if I don't do it, then there is no podcast. So that type of thing, but. Kevin, you're the second in that because you're on every Monday night. I remember on Thursday nights, I rotate through at least two people, sometimes three, sometimes four. We're into about a 3-person rotation right now with everybody off traveling and doing stuff. You're on every Monday night. I didn't even text you today. We did not talk today before this show, but I just assumed you would be ready at 7:45. I didn't say anything. So usually we're like, hey, do you want a pod today? And you're like, no, we're probably having a pod tonight. So it was fine. So no, I thank you. I thank Eric. I think, you have to go back to like Jared Dubois, Corey Ritzow, and Wendy Thomas. There's been so many fun co-hosts that we've had over the years. Sophie Nicolau, I've mentioned, Christian Miles, Larry Morgan. Scott French was on a lot of the earlier ones. Damian Calhoun has come on. We've had the beat writers that have been covering the LA Galaxy for years on this show. And yes, Corner of the Galaxy from the box is about from the penalty box. It's also from the press box. It's a dual thing. Just like Corner of the Galaxy is also a dual thing, right? It's the corner for soccer, and then the corner as in we're talking like this is our corner to come talk about the LA Galaxy, and then Corner of the Galaxy as in Earth, all those things. Multiple levels, very deep all the way down. It's funny though, I was talking to somebody. I woke up on Saturday morning early. It was a train weekend. We set a record. Over 3,800 people rode our trains on the weekend. A lot of fun. But I got up early Saturday morning. Dave Denholm was up, who does the play-by-play for LAFC, and he's like, oh man, I couldn't sleep. It must be because it's El Trafico or something like that. And I go, no, Dave, it's because we're old. We're both up, the whole deal. And he goes, yeah, my kid was in here not too long ago. Yeah, my kid woke me up like 20 minutes ago too. It was funny, but lot of people don't know, the very first LA Galaxy podcast ever put out was put out by ESPN. The host of that was Mr. Dave Denholm. So Dave was the original Galaxy podcast guy, and he and I have been friends over the years. And I love that guy, even though he used to talk about we, as in the LA Galaxy, or my LA Galaxy all the time. And jobs pull you in different directions, and I would have loved to see Dave land with the LA Galaxy, Kev, but it didn't work out, and I'm glad that he has a job doing soccer, because the man loves soccer. So
I think you should hold that over his head. I mean, if
I do
you tell LAFC people that he was a Galaxy guy and once said we in
he said
to the
my
Galaxy.
We could go back and find shows where he says my Galaxy. He would come on and guest host for me in the early days. Whenever we didn't have somebody on Thursday night, Jared couldn't do it or stuff like that. So yeah, Dave is great. I love Dave, and he'll always have a special place in my heart. Even though he hates VAR and he's like an old man just screaming into the wind on the porch, "Get off my lawn!" You know, that type of thing. But he knows. I love him. So lots of people.
This award is for you. Where'd it go? Where is it? There's the camera. There's the camera.
Oh my God! It's like
I'm
it's
good
your
at
first day.
this, huh?
It's like it's your first day. So anyway, let's get through that. I'm glad we got to do that. By the way, Raphael, $5 super chat. Congratulations, Pato, Panda, and Company. Best podcast in the galaxy. See, look, best podcast in the galaxy. See, there's so many word plays. So many word plays. Let's talk about it. LA Galaxy 4-2 losers to LAFC. Kevin, I'm gonna say this. All right, I was very busy on Saturday. I got home. I sat down. I was ready to tweet away, and off the game went. The Galaxy absolutely threw that game into the trash in the second half, and I don't know. I thought points, quite honestly, and I know El Trafico gets crazy, but I thought points were locked up in that second half. I thought the Galaxy were playing well enough, probably not to allow LAFC to score in that second half, because I thought there were adjustments that were made. And I thought that they weren't going to play well enough to score another goal. Granted, it's El Trafico. Things always happen and things go crazy. And then I watched Chris Mavinga totally fall asleep. And this is the problem with him. He has a tendency to do this. And I've gone to bat for him many times, saying he is the best defender out of all the people that they're choosing. The problem is he has the biggest downside. I think he has the highest upside in terms of the people who are on the bench after Yoshida. I think that he'll probably start for the rest of the year. And that puts the LA Galaxy in a position to mean that if he plays well, the LA Galaxy defense will do okay. He did not. And that pass is unacceptable. It's the easiest, most laziest pass that you can make. You knew the pressure was coming. You knew that LAFC would try to jump that route. So you couldn't make a bad play, and you made a bad play there. That being said, the fourth goal was also atrocious, and we can talk about that in a completely different way. But I was very surprised, and I don't know that I should have been as surprised, but I was very surprised the LA Galaxy threw that 2-2 game away in that second half.
Well, a couple of things. I mean, they dominated in position. It's a 62% possession, which I know doesn't necessarily mean a lot, but it means that they had the ball more than LAFC did. Steve Chernow said afterwards that in the opening minutes, he knew they were going to win that game because they were better.
BS. Steve Chernow.
Yeah, and I was kind of wondering. I kind of wondered where that came from, because the Galaxy came back twice. The first time they came back within seconds. The PA announcer hadn't even finished announcing the goal before Billy Sharp scored. Right. Then they came back in the second half to tie the game. I mean, LAFC essentially let them off the carpet twice to come back and tie that game. The one area where there was a lot of and then on the Mavinga goal, I thought that was the right play. It was just a terrible, easy, it's too soft to pass. And I don't think he saw Boanga sprinting up the middle of the field because his back was turned. I don't know that he knew for sure that Boanga was there.
Kevin, everybody knows that that's the play. Whenever you're trapping on that side, especially in that case, right? Because the ball is bouncing deep. The idea is Mavinga's going to go back and recover it. Everybody knows where the ball is going to go. So Boanga is going to try and jump that route, right? Everybody knows that. So if you know that, then one, you don't play it more towards the center. You play it more down the line, let Jonathan Bond come out and get it and beat Boanga to it, right? Or two is you take that ball, you step and you turn and you kick it out of bounds, right? Sideways. So if you're at all concerned, but you have to know, any decent defender knows that guy is there. It looked like St. Louis in the early days of their start this season. Remember when everybody was passing the ball to St. Louis and like they were just scoring goals? There was no... people want to say, well, he jumped the route and he did all the things. It's the most ASO goal that you're going to score. It was a gift. It was a present. Christmas came early for the LA guys. It was ridiculous. And people are going, Mavinga screwed up twice. Yoshida screwed up on the first goal. 100% Yoshida screwed up on the first goal because he didn't realize that Mavinga had somebody off his back shoulder as well. Second goal, whatever. The third goal for me is the one that broke the Galaxy's back. That was where everything went downhill because I really thought the Galaxy had a chance to get away and get some points. I didn't think they needed them, and I still didn't. I still disagree. It was the least important El Trafico played in maybe years. I didn't think LAFC needed the points necessarily, and I don't think that the Galaxy's season is over because of it, but it certainly puts the Galaxy season for the rest of the year in real highlights. You have to do well. There's nothing else there.
Well, the one thing it does is it kind of killed up momentum. We've been talking about, hottest. They were the third hottest team in MLS since the end of May. And arguably, there were two teams, the Galaxy and I think Real Salt Lake had 1.8 points, and I think Columbus was a little bit higher. But it kills the momentum a little bit going into a very difficult stretch. They have 2 more games this week. I think the one area maybe where you could be, in addition to some of the things we already talked about, where you could be a little bit critical of the Galaxy, they only got 5 shots and they only put 2 on goal. Right. The reason that's big is they were getting nothing from the forwards again. Sharp scored the goal. He did. But the other goal was 2 midfielders and a defender. They got nothing from Joveljic, and LAFC had Crapo back in goal for the first time in 315 days. He didn't make a save. I think you really wanted to test him. He didn't look good. He looked a little uncertain. If you put a decent amount of shots on goal, I think some of those are going to go in, and they just never really put any pressure on the new goalkeeper.
That is wherever I come into this. Let's talk a look, and I know we jumped ahead, but let's talk about the lineup here a little bit, because there's a huge issue here. The huge issue here is that without Gaston Brugman, without Chicharito, without Cáceres, the Galaxy miss an edge, right? And who did they not have start in this game that has been starting games, that has been one of their sort of their truth tellers, right? The guy who says sort of how it's going to go out, and then he plays well, and when he plays well, the Galaxy is Douglas Costa. Seeing Costa on the bench was like, we got problems. There's one of those things that you knew that there was going to be an issue somewhere, somehow with the LA Galaxy, and Douglas Costa was going to have to come into that game and change things, right? Kevin, he never came off the bench. Greg Vanney put him on the bench as a decoy. I mean, the crazy thing, and Greg went on to explain afterwards, it was a hamstring issue, and that he was out taking balls late on Thursday or Friday, and it just got tight on him, and they're like, we're not taking a chance. Again, goes to prove my point, which is this was the least important El Trafico probably in the history of the games that have been played. It just wasn't that. It wasn't worth risking Douglas Costa whenever you knew you needed Douglas Costa on Wednesday night, right? Wednesday night against Minnesota, that's the game we'll talk about. That's where it was. But really strange to see all the depth that we talked about that they gained, Kevin, in this transfer window where they had to do a whole bunch of stuff. It didn't matter as much. And the reason it didn't matter in this game was because the Galaxy now have so many injuries again that the depth is starting. And so therefore the starters were the depth pieces. Those depth pieces are now starting. You don't have the game changers off the bench. Douglas Costa could have been that. You were hoping that Joveljic could be it. Barrios came in, and I thought, he was at least a distraction for a little bit. But, Joveljic came in, nothing. Cerrillo didn't play. Probably, I understand that. Uri Rosell has been playing very well in that defensive, despite the fact that I thought LAFC controlled the midfield. I thought Uri Rosell played okay. I thought Mark Delgado played okay. Ricky Puig was trying to do everything he possibly could, and I know there's people who sit there and go, he tries to do too much. Bros, ladies, everybody, listen up. There is nobody else on the field who is going to be creator except for Ricky Puig. He has to do it all, Kevin. If he doesn't do it, nobody's going to do it, right? And when you look at the goal they scored with Billy Sharp, it was very direct, and LAFC was super slow in trying to come over and cover, and they were still in the, we scored, yay, the whole deal. That was super direct. It was really well taken. I like it, but Puig needs to be the creator, and whenever he's the solo creator, LAFC can hang 3 guys on him, and it gets a lot more difficult for him.
Well, Chirino did talk about that too. He said the Galaxy go through the midfield. The midfield is everything to the Galaxy. He also said that they do play very direct. They play up the middle. There's not a lot of wide play. And so LAFC's game plan was to control the midfield and keep the Galaxy from going wide, which they don't like to do anyways. That was a smart strategy. Obviously, it worked. But I also kind of read between the lines and said, we don't think they can do anything up front. We don't really have to worry about their forwards.
You don't. Although they got burned. Billy Sharp scored. Sharp has continued to. He has scored now multiple times in games that he's shown up. He has more goals than Dejan Joveljic. In
3 goals in 5 games.
Yeah, he is doing his job, but you are only going to get a goal from him, a goal per game. I mean, the guy has 3 goals in 5 games, Kevin. That's way above where I think a lot of people thought he was going to be anyway. But, he's not fast. He's just a grinder, and he tried to grind LAFC. And if the Galaxy had another creator on that field, if Douglas Costa was playing, the Galaxy have a chance at winning that game. As it was, I thought 2-2 was very fair. Looking at XG, I would say that it's slanted obviously towards LAFC. The LA Galaxy had a 0.8, I believe, on their expected goals. But we were talking about this in the Discord. That you have to take a shot in order to have XG, Kevin. If you don't take a shot, remember whenever the Galaxy had the breakaway, the counter in the first half, and they had a 3-man rush on 2, and they didn't get a shot off. Well, there's no XG in that. That's a chance, though, and that's a chance that should have been created and buried, right? And it wasn't. But I thought 2-2 was fair because I didn't see anything in LAFC that showed me they were going to dominate the LA Galaxy, and they didn't. I was surprised.
Bond deserved a better fate. He made 5 saves. The Mavinga goal, can't blame him for that one. And then the goal in garbage time, really difficult to blame him for that one, too.
We're going to talk about that one. I have a long rant. I'm sure I will go on in that one. And that's fine. No, I agree. Some people are trying to blame Mavinga for the second one with Hollingshead coming across, and I thought that was good space creation from Hollingshead. Really, I blame the midfield for not stopping that from going through, and then Mavinga has to try to step out. If you're asking your central defender to was back on the line, back on the penalty kick line, or back on the 18-yard box to step out and try to track a guy like that, I thought he did about as good as he could. Bond probably should have saved that one. That one, to me, I thought he had a pretty good look at. I know from that position from Hollingshead, he can go one of 2 ways, right? He can clearly go far post, near post there. It's not like it's more of an angle where there's only going to be sort of one general direction. So Bond had to wait for the shot. I would have liked to see the defense, the midfield check Hollingshead as he came through there a little bit. But overall, I think it's a great shot from outside the box. So
he talked about that after the game, and I didn't realize that. Well, I knew it was kind of a weird pass, but he got in the way. Vela was trying to pass it into the box.
How many times has that happened to the Galaxy this year, Kevin, where the ball bounces weirdly and it falls right to an attacker? That is another thing that you have to look at. Whenever that pass goes, Mavinga actually steps to the outside to go with the pass where the pass is supposed to go, and Hollingshead got in the way of it, and so Mavinga has to now make up the ground of going with the pass where it was supposed to go into where it deflected. Also difficult.
And if that hits another defender like Chiellini, who is not comfortable shooting, Hollingshead leads all MLS defenders in goals the last 2 seasons. He likes to shoot. He was a forward at UCLA. When that ball dropped to him, he said, in that position, a lot of times a defender will just dump the ball off. They're uncomfortable. He said, I'm totally comfortable. I'm going to take the shot there because I think my shot has a better chance of scoring than another pass. So the Galaxy got a little bit unlucky in that it hit Hollingshead instead of going to where it was supposed to go, and then the guy he hit was totally comfortable with it. But the injuries to me they're starting to pile up. With Costa, that's 5 starters, 4 that are out for the season, and then Costa being the 5th starter that wasn't available.
Yeah, and that's one of the things. You go to the starting lineup again, Fagundez, Sharp, and Boyd across the top. It was Puig, Rosell, and Delgado through the middle. Then you had Edwards, Mavinga, Yoshida, and Cuevas. Cuevas on the right-hand side. Cuevas was put in a tough spot here. I was actually surprised Greg didn't start Leerdam, but I think they were worried about the speed with LAFC and that Leerdam wasn't going to be able to keep up. So I understand why that decision, was made. The problem here is that Cuevas is young, that he doesn't have the physical skills. I don't think he's Calegari was probably one of the best right backs in Major League Soccer this year. People don't want to talk about that because his stats don't say, oh, hey, look how awesome he is. But Kevin, you realize now what the LA Galaxy were missing with him. He was just solid over there all the time. And he was such an integral part of the offense, too, getting forward, that the Galaxy felt like they could overload that side a lot. They could overload it comfortably, and that he was able to get back a lot. And him and Delgado had an understanding of how to get back and how to cover and do all the things they needed to do. Cuevas is in that position, and he's struggling, and he should struggle. He's not experienced enough to really know what to do over there, but Cuevas not closing down space, allowing crosses that come in. That first goal is one of those. Cuevas needs to push out and create and stop that ball, I think from Palacios coming in from that left side. He needs to stop that ball from coming in. then you have the problem with Yoshida and Mavinga and them not communicating correctly in that particular situation, because it's fine to bracket that guy, and really it was sort of, floating to the back there, or floating back behind. It was Buanga, I think, who floated in back behind Yoshida and got in front of Mavinga, and there was about 12 yards of space between those two. It was too much. Mavinga needed to cheat that in a little bit once he saw the ball going, and Yoshida needed to drop and sort of follow Buanga, who started his run from in front of Yoshida and curled around into that space, right? And it was too much room there. Not Mavinga's fault there. He had a guy on his back side that he also had to cover. So that's Yoshida for me. But that's a communication issue. One, that Cuevas doesn't push out and try to cut off that angle a little bit, or at least force Palacios to hit a ball that's not so teed up. And then the communication between Yoshida and Mavinga was at fault there. And then, a free header from the center of the box for Buanga, it's over, right? That's going to be an easy one. So Calegari's going to be the bigger injury, I think, out of any of them, Kevin, which is crazy to say. I think Calegari might be the biggest injury for the Galaxy that they don't have an answer for.
Well, and you were right when you talk about the depth. So if there's 5 starters out, just pick any 5 guys in the lineup. They're on the bench. That makes your bench better. It obviously makes your starting lineup better. I had a problem with the Calegari injury and the announcement of it. And I talked to Kevin Acevedo from the Galaxy.
Let me say, because we haven't said it on the podcast yet, because it came out after our show. The LA Galaxy announced today on Friday, so the day after our show, the LA Galaxy announced today that defender Lucas Calegari, who apparently you're never supposed to use his first name because his agent only wanted to use the last name, but they get to use his first name now. To announce that defender Lucas Calegari underwent a successful anterior cruciate ligament and ACL reconstructive surgery on his left knee sustained in the 2023 MLS regular season match against the Houston Dynamo on September 2nd. Calegari will be unavailable for the remainder of the 2023 campaign. So, yes, continue.
Now you said September 2nd, right?
September 2nd, and they announced it on September 15th, so 13 days.
That's the point of my rant. I talked to Kevin Acevedo, who, by the way, I know is listening to this podcast. He's listening to it in the future. He's listening to it on Monday as he does his 20-mile morning bike ride. Apparently, he's training for the Tour.
On Tuesday, because we're recording on Monday night, so he's going to listen to it on Tuesday, yes.
As he's on his bike ride, he's apparently training for the Tour de France or something. I'm not sure what. But it sounds like that's a harassment thing, too, by the way, if the Galaxy are forcing him as part of his duties to listen to this thing. That seems like cruel and
unusual punishment. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, very much so. But my point to him was, I snarkily sometimes refer to MLS as minor league soccer, and the Calegari injury fits perfectly into that. Here's a guy with ACL reconstructive surgery. That's a serious surgery. He didn't hurt that walking down the stairs at home. He hurt that on September 2nd. We got Greg Vanney telling us at least twice, we don't know what it is, but it's bad. We don't know when he's going to be available. Could be season-ending injury. Could be out there tomorrow. We don't know. 13 days later, there's a picture of him in the hospital getting reconstructive surgery. And Kevin Acevedo said, well, there's a problem because he's on loan and the team in Brazil is actually in charge of everything. And where did they do the surgery, Kevin? They did it here in L.A.
Right.
So you guys knew, and there was no announcement. And my point was, in every other sport, when Shohei Ohtani got hurt and came out of a game, reporters were told after the game what his injury was. When Aaron Rodgers got hurt on Monday Night Football the other day, that was late at night. We woke up the next morning and there was a medical report from the Jets saying exactly what happened to him. And why MLS can't do that, I don't know. But I do know that fans, supporters, people that want to know things, they depend on you and I and Damian and everybody else to know this information. And when they ask us and we say, well, gee, we don't know what happened to Calegari. Well, they look, we know what happened to Shohei. We know what happened to Rodgers. Why doesn't Major League Soccer tell you that? And I have not heard. Kevin tried to explain it. He did say that was an oversight that we should have known. But this happens over and over and over again.
Yeah,
why is it that every other league can make announcements within 24 to 48 hours, and MLS is 13 days later to tell us it was major reconstructive surgery? That's pretty bizarre.
No, it's not bizarre. It's just it's a lack of caring. They don't think that they've grown up in a situation where the mainstream media, and especially now that they're getting a lot of mainstream media and stuff like that, doesn't push, doesn't care. We ask all the time. It doesn't matter. Remember how like whenever somebody would get taken out of a game, you could ask the PR people what happened to them. Say, hey, what's the injury for that? Now we're told we don't know until you have to talk to Greg Vanney, who doesn't know after the game either. Right? And it's like, oh, it's a left leg injury. Like it's a left hamstring injury. It's a left knee injury. We didn't want to diagnose this. We didn't know why they were taken out. Right? And that doesn't happen. It's MLS clearly sees no value in it. They also see no value in having a robust media policy, because their media policy you could use to wipe your rear side, and they constantly do that. Messi doesn't talk after games, and apparently he's not violating policy. He is very straightforward, unless they've rewritten the policy and then just forgot to tell the media how to do it. So yeah, I mean, I'm with you. It takes too long. Also, with all these injuries, and listen, you can say some of them are absolutely freak. I mean, even Calegari's injury looks like a freak accident. He's just turning and he goes down, and that was it, right? With all these injuries, I know a lot of people have been asking about the training squads, the training team, and everything that's going on. I mean, it's not a small list of injuries. You have Chicharito out, you have Cáceres out, you have Brugman out, you have who else am I missing? Calegari's out. That's 4, right?
And Douglas Costa, we don't know his
Douglas
situation.
Costa, he at least was dressed. I mean, I have to imagine that if Greg thought that there was a free kick with about 1 minute left, they may have put Douglas Costa in to take the free kick. It's one of those. But he did. I think he put him on the bench as a decoy. In that game, 100%. I think he put him in that game as a decoy. He was never I don't think he was ever gonna play in that game, and I expected him to. Everybody did. The announcers did. Everybody thought he was gonna start, and then mystery until after the game. Little gamesmanship in that, I understand, and certainly you understand why the Galaxy wouldn't want to tell LAFC that Douglas Costa is hurt for whatever reason, because there was game planning in there for Douglas Costa, guaranteed, right? And so you want to be like, he's going to come in. You guys better be careful, because he's going to come in, and it's going to change things. And when he comes in, things do change. So it's nice to sort of see that. So if they were, if LAFC was banking on Costa coming in, maybe they held subs differently. Maybe they did do things. But at the same time, for the Calegari incident, it is.
What? And I saw Costa after the game, and he was walking around, looked fine. He was, dressed in civilian clothes, and first guy out of the locker room, so I would imagine he didn't sweat much and didn't need a shower. He was dressed pretty quick. Seemed to be walking fine. I don't think it's that serious an injury. But just briefly back to the Calegari thing, another point I made with Kevin is you sign these guys, you tell us they're the greatest players since sliced bread, that they're going to change everything. You want us to vote for him for Defender of the Year when the MLS votes come out. You tell us how great he is, and then he gets hurt, and it's like, oh, it's not important. He's not going to play. We don't need to talk about him. And you and I are sitting here saying, look, he's probably the most valuable guy that they lost.
Yep.
We're talking about a guy that's valuable. He's so valuable, the Galaxy go 13 days, 12 days without telling us he's hurt.
Is that
and
crazy?
He's not available.
Is that crazy?
And another way it hurts briefly, and this is just a personal thing, but when, at our paper with Bill Plaskey, who's our number one columnist, not a big soccer fan, you have to drag him to get out to a soccer match. When he goes to a Laker game and can talk to LeBron immediately after the game, every game, or can talk to Clayton Kershaw or Mike Trout, and he comes to the Galaxy and he says, what's up with this player? Is he hurt? We don't know. Can I talk to this guy after the game? No. Can we go in the locker room? No. He's gone. That's it. You guys don't act like a major league team. We're not going to treat you like a major league team.
Can I go back to Calegari for a second in terms of his playing? Is it crazy to say that he might be the most impactful injury to the LA Galaxy? I would have said Cáceres or Brugman might have been that. I didn't think. Listen, I like Chicharito. He wasn't doing crap this year, right? And he was injured before the season even started. Everybody says, oh, well, the Galaxy sucked before the injuries. The Galaxy started the season without Chicharito and Douglas Costa. I don't know if everybody remembers that, but that's how it went down, right? Is that Chicharito got hurt out in the desert, right? And that's why everybody was like, great, going in El Trafico at the Rose Bowl, first game, biggest game. Galaxy aren't going to have Chicharito. This is all downhill. It took him, I think, 8-9 games to finally come back. Maybe it was only 4 or 5. In my mind, it says 8-9 games, right? But he was injured. He didn't play. Costa didn't play at the beginning of this. So they've had injuries throughout this entire year. So it wasn't just that. You also lump on top of the fan boycott, the Chris Klein thing, all the pressure on the players. I mean, totally self-inflicted wound. And that was on AEG and Dan Beckerman when they decided to bring Chris Klein back. They made that choice. That was on them. They knew there was going to be a reaction. I guess they didn't think it was going to be as serious as it was, but a guy who gets suspended for cheating gets a new contract. That's awesome, by the way. Does that happen in any other sport? Does that happen in any other place that the guy who got caught cheating gets a contract extension, gets a new contract, multi-year contract extension? My guess is AEG still playing Chris Klein for this year and then the next year. And who knows how many years he paid?
Well, we know they were playing Onafo and Ziggy Schmidt to not coach at the same time they're paying GPS to coach. But to answer your question, you can make the argument that he's the most impactful player, and there's a number of reasons why. I think even before Chicharito got hurt, the offense was running through Boyd and Ricky Puig. So when Chicharito went down, it was almost like they didn't lose anything because Dejan came in and did the same thing Chicharito did, which was basically nothing. Now you have Billy Sharp, and he's changed things. So you do have a dangerous forward now. In the back line, I think you can make the argument. It's not straight up. It's not 1-for-1, but maybe Yoshida has kind of replaced Cáceres. Now, yes. If you have Cáceres and Yoshida together with Jalen Neal, then you got something. But 1-for-1.
Jalen Neal also injured. Sorry, go ahead. Continue.
Yeah,
Forgot about that.
Yeah, we forgot about him. I think Gaston Brugman, was the captain, was the holy midfielder, was an important guy, was the link from the back line to the front. He was very valuable. But if I had to pick one, I agree with you. It would be Calegari. He's the one guy you can replace because you have lost Julian Araujo. He's the new Brazilian Julian Araujo. Yeah, and now he goes down.
Except he's better than Julian Araujo. Just say it. It makes everybody feel better. You shake it off a little bit, right? You do it. He is markedly better than Julian Araujo, which means...
And you were president of the Julian Araujo fan club for a long time.
I still love Julian Araujo, still big fan. I hope he does well, right? The whole deal. But the bottom line is that if Calegari got sent to Barcelona right now, that would make sense to me, even more so than Julian Araujo going to Barcelona, right? I know there was a whole...
He's in Zimbabwe or something now.
He's not there. He's with... Isn't he... Is he another Spanish side? I forget where he's playing. But somebody in the chat room will tell us once again. But yeah, he's been a little exiled from Barcelona there for a little while to start to gain some of that gamesmanship that will come in La Liga and all the fun things that comes there. So very interesting on that front. Okay, so we talked about the first goal. We talked about the mistakes there. We talked about I think the Galaxy midfield was overrun by LAFC, and I think that's what happens whenever you just have Ricky Puig. So we talked about that point in there. I think outstanding by Yoshida, by the way, to score. Outstanding by Billy Sharp to score. The Galaxy came back in those games. By the way, they look comfortable coming back both of those times, right? 2-1, 2-2. They look comfortable coming back. Again, there was nothing in this game that told me, and I find it hysterical, by the way, that you go and you read MLS pundits today, and they're like, oh, LAFC is back. I'm sorry. Did you guys watch that game? Did anybody else watch? Did Billy Sharp score 10 seconds? Is that what a championship team does? Is allow Billy Sharp to score 37 seconds after the first goal went in? Is that how? Does Maya Yoshida in the center basically unmarked after a little flick header? Is that what good teams do? They struggle to the 13th place team. One, I would argue, Galaxy aren't a 13th place team, although they should own it by now. They've been there for longer than anybody else. That 13th place thing is something there. But the bottom line is that if you're in the Western Conference, and we've been saying this, so let's beat this dead horse, mediocrity. LAFC was mediocre on the night. All right, they ended up having more firepower. The Galaxy committed and shot themselves in the foot. That's really what the difference was in this. Now, let's talk about the fourth goal. Mr. Chris Penso, one of the most controversial referees in all Major League Soccer. Alex Ruiz on Thursday night, Kevin said, Alex on this show said, if I know your name as a referee, that's not a good thing, right? And he sort of called it out again. So here's the play. Galaxy are down 3-2 at this point. Chris Mavinga just shot the LA Galaxy dead. Galaxy are bleeding out in the gutter as is happening, but they're trying to fight on a little bit. So the game was, by the way, I also say that people have said the Galaxy quit. If Mavinga makes that pass on your team in your rec league, you get that guy in the car and send him home. But because this is Major League Soccer, you have to play that out. That was such a momentum-killing play. A gigantic momentum-killing play. Did you see Chris Mavinga tweet, by the way?
Yeah.
Yeah, he says, I'm not going to hide. I screwed up. Now the team objective remains the same, to do everything to secure the playoffs. Hope is vital. LA Galaxy. What do you make of him coming out and saying, I screwed up? Is that a good thing or a bad thing?
He's owning up to it. I mean, how can it be bad?
It's bad. It's really bad.
Why is that?
Because it wasn't just like, oh, I'm sorry, I made this one mistake this one time. The guy who got a red card and allowed 3 goals against Vancouver. Somebody tweeted at me and said, name another player on the LA Galaxy directly responsible for losing 6 points this season. And I'm like, well, I mean, Mavinga is like clearly the one you're going to look at right away. But he's right in that particular case. It's bad. Just in this particular case, saying nothing is better. And I'm usually not that guy. I'm usually the guy who's like, let players be themselves. You want players to be themselves. Let players be themselves. No, not on this. This is not hey, I was trying really hard and I just screwed up. This is, as I said before, an ASO level mistake. Greg Vanney knows it. Everybody on that team know it. Watch the shoulders drop whenever that ball goes in. Watch the deflation that happens for the LA Galaxy. So anyway, they get possession now, Kevin. They're going forward. They're trying, right? They're stringing passes together, but there's no edge here. There's nobody who's really going to change the game at this point. They're hopeful that maybe something, scurries sideways and goes in, and maybe they can tie this game and get it 3-3. But really, after that Mavinga thing, hope is lost, and I understand why. The whole deal. So then what happens is the LA Galaxy are pressuring and holding LAFC into LAFC's own half. They have a lot of possession. They're sending waves in, nothing really dangerous, but they're sending waves in over and over again, trying to sort of get something going. The ball is about to be cleared out. LAFC is about to find that ball in the center of their half and put that ball into, a position where maybe they can counter. Maya Yoshida comes screaming out of the back and makes a wonderful tackle on a ball. Beautiful tackle, good pressure, good timing, gets the ball, and then gets fouled and drilled on the play, and he gets dropped. Now that ball ends up going to an LA Galaxy player who turns and passes it to Barrios. Barrios tries to make a turn, and the ball gets taken away. The referee sees the foul on Yoshida, Chris Penso, and he says, play on, right? Now, or not play on, but advantage, right? I shouldn't say play on. Advantage, right? There's an advantage here because the Galaxy are moving forward and they have something there. Here's the problem with that. As soon as Barrios loses the ball because he played an advantage, the LA Galaxy are at a disadvantage because Maya Yoshida is down and injured behind the play. The LA Galaxy would have rather, especially in this case, would have rather taken the free kick than tried to advance that ball against the set-up LAFC defense, right? Clearly, there's no advantage. The ball isn't going to go anywhere, all right? You could say, oh, well, it got passed into space. It was a poor officiating call and a poor moment because by playing advantage, he put the LA Galaxy at a disadvantage. So LAFC gets the ball, they counter the other way, Yoshida's lying on the ground, there's no way for the Galaxy to be able to get back, and so Chris Penso scores the 4th goal of the night. That's what happens there. It's poor game management from the referee. Now you have his
I have
words,
a couple
right?
of series of comments. Yeah, Scott French is the pool reporter, and he asked for Chris Penso to be quizzed on this. First question was, what occurred before the 4th LAFC goal? He says a foul was committed by LAFC against LA Galaxy's number 4, which is Yoshida. Then the question is, did you give advantage to the Galaxy when Yoshida went down? Chris Penso, again, very very economically says advantage was played. Didn't really want to talk about it. So then Scott forced it again, said, if so, when there was an immediate turnover and LAFC was able to counter with Yoshida on the ground, why did you not bring that play back? And Chris Penso said, after multiple touches and a pass, LAFC fairly won the ball back from the LA Galaxy. I did not deem this to be immediate. And Greg Vanney was also asked by Scott after the game on that. And Greg Vanney had I thought, a better answer. He said, when you have a center back, Yoshida, who is driving forward like that and he gets fouled, if it's almost any other player in the position in that situation, maybe you think about it. But when it's a center back who gets fouled and he's lying on the ground and then the ball goes into transition, you, meaning the Galaxy, you're dead on the other side. Greg said, there has to be for me enough common sense by the referee to go, oh, center back out of position, gets hammered, he's on the ground. For me, this should be a foul and you bring it back and start to play. At least that way we get a chance to protect ourselves. It says most goals end in transitions, or most attacks end in transitions. They don't end in goals or finishing actions. But because we got a guy lying on the ground, we can't deal with it. And he did say that changed the game because at 3-2, as you mentioned, they were pushing forward. At 3-2, they were still trying to get that point. At 4-2, it's just make sure no one gets hurt and let's get on the bus and go home.
3-2 by 3-2. The Mavinga pass was crap enough that it killed that game. I like the idea that the Galaxy were trying to mount something. The bottom line is it was 2-2. The Galaxy make changes to sort of set themselves up to go for the win, because it was sort of like, oh, okay, Jovic is coming in. They're making some changes. They're moving some guys around. They're setting it up for the final section, and then they allow LAFC to score. Mavinga makes that pass and allows LAFC to score. Now you're not set up in the way that you really probably would have to 100% go for it. Also knowing that your bench was thin, you really didn't have a lot of game changers on there. I'm not sure it matters all that much.
But they did come back from a goal down twice, so you can't say it.
They did. So that's why everybody's saying, I love the chat room is correct. There's like, oh, LAFC was mediocre and they scored four goals. Yeah, well, 2 of them were gifts. But really, when you look at the defense that was played on both sides of those games, all the goals scored were sort of like, really? That's what you're going to allow to score? It wasn't a well-played game. It didn't have the intensity of an El Trafico. Which people can argue all they want. It was a slow game from both sides, and maybe that has to do with all the games that were coming up, or maybe it was just the way Vanny was critical of his guys, saying that he thought they played too slow, that they didn't have the intensity. I agree with that. That's these guys have to figure this out. To me, it wasn't a good performance. I don't know that there's anybody out there you really say had a good performance. I thought Billy Sharp did what he was asked to be done. If I'm going to give anybody man of the match, I don't know. Is it Billy Sharp? Sure, because as a forward, you can't do much on the defensive side, and you scored a goal, so you did your job. That's like the safest way to sort of get anybody. It's Chris, by the way, says, gave us a $5 super chat, says, thoughts on Cuevas starting in his gameplay. We talked a little bit about Cuevas, but for me, I understand why Vanny put him in. I also understand why he struggled in this game. He has speed. He has the ability to get forward. I thought the Galaxy forced too many passes, for sure. That was one of those that you could see LAFC. And again, keying off of Puig, Kevin, whenever you don't have another option, really, it's kind of easy to do. It's easier to do when you can throw 3 guys in the midfield that sort of, ghost and follow Puig around instead of having to worry about Puig and Costa and everything else.
And you knew LAFC tipped their hand when they decided to start killing Acosta and Ilya Sanchez, 2 guys with a lot of bite. Their midfield was going to lay back. It wasn't going to push forward. Timothy Tillman wasn't in there. Some of their more attacking midfielders were on the bench. LAFC was basically saying is none shall pass. This is where the ball is going to stop right here.
Yeah, overall. By the way, somebody said, "Hey, was Puig? What did Puig think?" Here it is. Tim, $2 super chat. Did Puig look 100% healthy? He's not. We know he's not.
No.
He has the hamstring issue, right?
No, groin.
Oh, groin. That's right.
Groin.
The growing issue. He does have a growing issue. He's rather short, but he'll get there eventually. I'm sure. He just needs all those Herbalife. He's not. He's injured. He's going to be injured for the rest of this year, I would imagine, because he's not going to get any games off, and he goes. He's going to play every single game from here on out because the Galaxy have to have him in there.
Does that make him the most valuable player, by the way? The fact that he's the guy, you can't even take him out when he's injured?
Oh, Puig is the player of the year for the Galaxy.
Okay.
I think that's fine with me. I don't know who else it would be.
Tyler Boyd?
No. I like Tyler Boyd, but no. Ricky Puig makes things happen. Tyler Boyd score goals. He won Golden Boot. He can win Golden Boot. I mean, he'll win that because he has the most goals right now. I hurt my shoulder, by the way. I don't know if it was from watching the LA Galaxy or doing something else. But it's bad today. Hold it.
You and Costa.
Yeah, me and Doug.
By the way, have you talked to Tyler Boyd recently? I love the accent.
Recently, like this year, yes, I've talked to Tyler Boyd.
The New Zealand accent. He says his friends from back in the day when he was growing up in Santa Barbara, whenever he meets them, they give him a lot of crap for that accent. They think it's fake.
Yeah.
Because they remember him when he spoke like a Southern California. Now he's got that heavy New Zealand accent.
All right, so we get through this game. Let's go through some charts real quick, right, Kevin? Because why not? Charts, that's fun. This is the 7th time the LA Galaxy have given up 3 goals or more. Interesting. The last time they did it, Chris Mavinga got a red card. Just giving you a heads up on that. Whenever Mavinga plays bad,
but it also matched the season high.
Yeah,
forwards the season high.
Yeah, I mean, I'm okay with that. Listen, scoring 2 goals in this game was, I think a really good showing. The Galaxy have still found ways to score goals without any sort of 9 support, and it's hard to keep saying that because Billy Sharp is scoring goals, but it's not consistent. It's not The Galaxy had 2 shots on goal. They both went in. That was it. Where's the offense? Does anybody know? There, look, under. No, is it over here? Or is it over there? I don't know where it is.
And there were more goals to be had. Again, with Crapo coming back in, I thought he was a little unsteady. A little more pressure on him. I think there were more goals there. But when you put 2 shots on goal, they both go in. you're shooting 100%, but you're still not going to win that game.
So somebody said Galaxy made 100% shots, and I forget LAFC was like at 45% or something like that. It's like, we win again, right? And I thought that was funny. I was like, it's a way to find it. I do not want people, and I know that there's people who are discouraged by and they don't like losing to LAFC. I called this game. I thought another reason I'm really mad at Chris Penso is I said LAFC would win this game 3-2, and he took that away from me with that ridiculous advantage call play. So I could have had it. I could have nailed the score correctly. But I don't want people to get discouraged. I thought this was the last throwaway game the Galaxy had, and I don't mind them not being sharpest, especially when Douglas Costa is. If Costa can play the rest of these games, the Galaxy have a good shot at making the playoffs. If he can't, Kevin, the Galaxy won't make the playoffs. There's too many injuries going on. There's too many. It's like triage. It's like MASH all over again. They're in there trying to save guys and just keep them. It's a walking wounded. Whenever this is like hockey at the end of the hockey season, right, where all of a sudden you find out they announce all the injuries that everybody has, and it's like, oh, these guys have been injured for the last 2 months. And that's the LA Galaxy.
So they're 7-11-9, right? They're in 13th place. They've been in 13th place, by the way, since May. They haven't gone up, haven't gone down. 13th place. They're 5 points out of a playoff spot. But given everything, the boycott, the injuries, all the things that they've gone through, this, not being able to go out and get a guy in August, having to sort of manipulate the system a little bit. If the season ended right now and they finished 13th with a losing record, is this a good season or a bad season, considering all the obstacles they had?
I mean, it's a crap season, isn't it? It's a crap season because of all of that. It's a crap season seeing that the team was put in a position from the very first kickoff this season of having to fight against its own fans and scrape together to put together a team. Such a crap position and such an easily avoidable position. That's the really thing. It's like the people who drive, whenever it says this area is flooded and then somebody will drive and the car goes underwater and they're like, you have to rescue me. That was what the LA Galaxy did with their team at the beginning of this year. Was they're like, we know it's flooded, but we're driving down there anyway. Right? And we're going to make it. We're fine. We got 4-wheel drive. We're fine. That's what the Galaxy did to this organization at the very beginning. They flooded it. They flooded the engine. They flooded the seats. And they were surprised, even though the giant sign back here said, do not enter, flood zone. And so, the injuries are the part that you can't predict on this. And I'll be honest with you, I don't think it's a training issue. I don't think that's an issue. I don't know that for sure, but in my heart of hearts, you look at Caceres and he got kicked in the knee. That's not a training thing, right? The whole deal. Chicharito, you could see whenever he reached for that ball that he tore something. Yes, you can do stretches to make things as malleable as possible. At his age, making that stretch at that time, that was enough to be done. Brugman, just weird in terms of how he goes down. Calegari, weird in terms of how he goes down. It just feels unlucky. It feels like, the Galaxy are cursed. And
Costa was the shoulder. You can't really, have a guy trained so the shoulder doesn't get hurt. The weird thing about it is, like you said, it's kind of a lost season, because when you go through a season like that, you look and say, okay, we have some young players that learned some things. Did we have some veterans that got adjusted? And you look at the Galaxy and, none of that seemed to happen. I mean, there was. I can't look on the field and say, yeah, this guy made a big stride. Well, maybe Jalen Neal. Made a big stride. But you just don't look at it and you say, no, this was a lost year for everybody. There's nobody that had a year where they even Ricky Puig had a great season, but he's going to end it injured and unfulfilled. We knew he was a good player before. He'll be a good player next year. But there wasn't anyone that really took a big step forward.
That is a criticism, I think, of Greg Vanney, is where has the progression been for this team? And if we go through some of the stats and we look at that, we go to winning percentage and 25.9%, not good. 40.7% losing percentage, 59.3% in terms of getting a point or better. That needs to be higher. We talked about that needing to be in the 65, 70s. And to close things out, if they don't get there, that's a problem. The away points right now, the LA Galaxy had 22 away points last year. Again, regression, Kevin. 22 away points. They have 11 away points this year. So half of that, and they only have, 6 games remaining? No.
7
games. 7 games remaining.
And I think 3 on the road, 4 at home, right?
So they're not getting to the 22. That's not happening. They could win all those games, and 9 and 11 they'd get it to 20, right? So that's not happening. So that's regression. The home points right now. They finished with 28 home points last year, 29 in 2021, 28 in 2022. They're at 19 right now. They need another 9 possible to get to that number there. That's a lot to ask for from an LA Galaxy team right now. If we look at this, if the LA Galaxy made an MLS Cup right now, Kevin, they would be the worst LA Galaxy team ever to make an MLS Cup and to win an MLS Cup. That's what that says right there. I don't think that's possible right now, just in terms of how I'm seeing the injuries stack up. So not real excited about that. Yes.
I guess the one positive would be they did straighten out, not completely, there's still some dead wood there, as we know, but they did make some efforts to straighten up the front office. They were drag kicking and screaming, but there were some, I think the Tom Braun hire separating the business and the soccer side. Will Kuntz, obviously a great hire. They still have a little bit of work to do. They finally recognized that and did something about it. And you talk about teams and you say, well, people don't talk about the front office a lot unless they're spending a ton of money or not spending anything. It's just kind of the front office is there. Management is there. But you look at the Galaxy, and here's a situation where the front office management can really hinder you. They created, as you said, they created these problems and let them linger for almost half a season. And then you look at Miami, and irrespective of how poorly they started, Miami did a great job in the middle of the season to bring in some players to help them, and we've seen the results of that. So, although they sort of be taken for granted, they're part of the background, most of the time management and the front office actually do play a pretty big role in whether your team is successful or not.
Yeah, I think you're going to see that. If we look at the LA Galaxy in our favorite skyscrapers chart here, the LA Galaxy at this point, both in 2021 and 2022, they were 8 points better than they were right now. So remember that as you close this out. They were 8 points better both times in 2021 and 2022. 21, they missed the playoffs the last day, in the last play. 2022, they finished 4th, right? There's still a lot to be made up in this. I'm not saying that they can. I'm not saying that they won't. But there's a lot to be made up. Average points per game right now, LA Galaxy have finished and averaged over their entire history 1.49 points per game, almost 1.5 points per game average. When you look at it, 1.11 points right now for the LA Galaxy is their points per game. So no bueno, as they say. Here's the big one for me. The LA Galaxy scored 58 goals in 2022. In 2023 right now, they have 35. We look at projected goals, that we expect them to score 44, okay? So again, 35, we're expecting that they're going to get to 44, which means they're going to score 9 more goals for the rest of the season. That's based on how many goals they score per game and projecting that out, right? So that changes the whole time. So 44. Let's look at 44 and see the last time the LA Galaxy scored only 44 goals or got less than 44 goals. In 2017, they had 45 goals for the entire season. Don't count 2020 because it was a shortened season. 45 goals in 2017. 44 goals in 2010. So the answer to that is you can have a Supporters Shield winning team if you have the best defense in Major League Soccer, then you can only need to score 44 goals, which is what happened that year, but got blasted out of the playoffs by Dallas. 36 goals in 2009, 38 goals in 2007, 37 goals in 2006. We're going way back into this lull where the LA Galaxy didn't have it. But basically, the LA Galaxy have scored more than 44 goals in every season since 2010. Outside of 2020 again. That, to me, is the Galaxy's biggest downfall. But we can play it on the other side, too, Kevin. Let's play on the defensive side. We're projecting that the LA Galaxy are going to allow 56.7, let's say 57 goals. All right, so 57 goals on this one. Goals conceded, 57. 57 would put them right around, let's see, 2019 had 59 goals they allowed. 2018 had 64 goals. 2017 had 67. The Galaxy have been trending down. But this year, the defense, especially I think with the injuries that they've had this year, that's what, in my mind, what sort of gets it, because Greg has been ratcheting those down. 54, 51. You were expecting that they were sort of going to be in that same one, but we're looking at 57 right now. Overall, these stats tell me, Kevin, not a great team. Now a team that is sitting in September, winless in September, 2 draws and a loss.
And you're projecting a massive, massive goal differential, minus 13.
Yeah, minus 13. They're minus 10 right now. But that's what the goals per game is basically telling us, that this is where the LA Galaxy are going to finish. And by the way, it always ends up finishing right at the number because they're all based off of 34 games. So whenever it gets to 34 games, it's going to be the number of whatever goals they gave up. It always equals out to a whole number at the end, unless it's 2020, where we projected when they didn't play 34. I know everybody's like, wait a minute, we need to score more goals. That's what's wrong. Oh yeah, you need to score, and you can see it across everything. That's the really sort of disappointing thing for the LA Galaxy is that the offense has been an issue. I think since Chicharito got hurt, as far as I'm concerned. Gary, by the way, gave us a $10 super chat and says, do you guys think this can be a 6-point week? Both upcoming teams have some scary players. Do you think with all the injuries and back-to-back games, we can win the next 2 games? Thanks again, guys. Yeah, I think the Galaxy can. I don't know that they will. That's another thing. I just said the Galaxy weren't very good, Kevin. They're mediocre in a mediocre conference. They can win. They can win out here for the rest of the season. I can see that happening too. I just need. It's going to hinge, I think, on Douglas Costa for me. Douglas Costa is going to be the answer to that for me anyway.
Well, once upon a time, Austin was really good at home.
Yeah, and they just lost to Portland over the weekend. So what does that say? We don't know. It's one of those things. I have some breaking news. Do you want some breaking news?
Wow. Austin hasn't won in the last 5 games.
Yeah, they're not playing well. So that's why. I mean, at home against Minnesota, which we're going to talk about here in a second, and then away to Austin. Yeah, there's a chance, Gary. This is where it becomes. This is where the rubber meets the road, though. This is it. This is where the Galaxy have to score goals. They have to win games. They have to get points. And 1 point is okay. 3 points, you need 3 points. 3 points.
What's the over under for like 110 degrees in Austin?
Oh, I mean, it's
you
pretty
take the
warm
over
there.
or the under on that, yeah.
We've had a cooling trend out here, though. It started to die down. What's the weather? I'll have to ask Hammer, although he's in a different country compared to where Austin is up in Dallas. But we could figure that out. All right. Do you want breaking news? Who wants breaking news? Raise your hand if you want breaking news.
Yeah, I do.
Yeah, I know. So there's been I don't want to say a lot of reports, but there's been some middling reports that Miami is coming after Ricky Puig, right? I mean, have you seen this? Have you seen this?
I have not.
Oh, don't worry. It wasn't. These are really bad rumors, right? But I see all of them, and I see the people in the Discord like freaking out and stuff like that. So I did ask about it because I like to kill BS rumors. So let's kill this rumor. There's 3 reasons we can kill this rumor. One is that it doesn't look like the 2 teams have talked to each other at all. So if there was any plan for that, they'd have to talk to each other. There is no talking to each other. Could they approach him in the offseason? Yes, they could. I'm told that hasn't happened. I'm told that Ricky Puig likes it in LA. I have told you that I expect the LA Galaxy to pay Ricky Puig and raise his salary this offseason. That is my perception of what is going down. That's not inside information or anything. The other thing that comes into this, and the reason you don't have to worry about Ricky Puig going, how do you make that work internally, Kevin? How much money would they have to give the LA Galaxy? Let's say they open up the transfer market like they've been talking about to have an actual internal transfer market you can trade for cash and stuff like that. How much money would Miami have to give the LA Galaxy? And then to have Ricky Puig, he's a DP on a no trade clause contract. And he's secured right now for the LA Galaxy through 2026 because they have an option year after 2025. So the Galaxy have the rights to Ricky Puig through 2026. How does any of that work? The answer is it doesn't. It doesn't make sense unless rules drastically change. Then we can talk about it and we can sort of see where it was going. But that would be stupid. Ricky is worth way more money outside of the league than he is inside the league right now, unless they open up sort of that cash trading. And then Miami's going to have to dump 20, 12, 15, $17 million for Ricky Puig. There's 0 chance that the Galaxy will let him go to Miami.
What about if they gave the Galaxy that Messi guy?
Yeah, that's what. Yeah, Puig for Messi. That's what other people say. Yeah, make it happen. Make it straight up swap. Let's do that. So anyway, I wanted to tell you.
Here's your answer. The weather on Saturday. It's Saturday in Austin, right? They play Saturday.
Yeah, let me check our schedule here just to make sure. It is 9:24, and 9:24 is
Sunday.
It's Sunday, isn't it? Yeah.
It's going to be in the mid 90s, and the humidity is going to be around 60%.
They kick off at 7:30 or 8:30, I guess, East Coast time, because it's a 6:30 start. Or it's so that's an 8:30 kick time in Texas because they're 2 hours ahead, right?
Yes.
Yeah, so they're kicking at 8:30, so it's going to be in the evening. So it'll be as good as it's going to be, right?
Well, and Austin, by the way, has not won in its last 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. They're winless in their last 7. 6 of those games ended in losses. Minnesota, on the other hand, has lost just 1 of their last 6. Minnesota is 2-1-3 in their last 6. So if you have to look for an advantage, the fact that Minnesota, the much hotter team, is coming into Carson and the Galaxy are going to Austin, that would be how you would draw it up if you had the chance to do that. They play the hotter team at home and the weaker team on the road.
Yeah, and if
this could be a 6-point week.
Yeah, and if you go into the Western Conference, Austin directly above the LA Galaxy, so a chance to jump them basically. The LA Galaxy have played one less game than Austin, right? The LA Galaxy get to play Minnesota, who's at 37 points. They're 7 points ahead of the LA Galaxy. They're going to they play Portland twice, right? That's who's at 36 and has played 2 more games than the LA Galaxy. There are math scenarios that have the LA Galaxy climbing that ladder and getting into that position. I said I don't think the LA Galaxy will finish in 13th, even though they've inherited that position. I can't wait, Kevin. Will MLS, and it's always so hard to track this back because a lot of times the standings tables don't let you go back by date, right? Like you want to go, where were the LA Galaxy on this date? Where were they on this date?
Yeah.
I want to know when
it's
they
very
got
hard to find out.
I want to know when they got into 13th place and how long they've sat there unmoved if they finally climb out of 13th place. Because
here's what I can tell you, because I actually researched this. When they started this little streak, I think it was May 20 something. It was at the end of May. I think it was the penultimate game in May. When they won that game, they went into that game in 14th place. So they were in 14th place. They moved to 13th after that game, and to my recollection, they have not moved out of, because they were pretty far behind. My recollection is they have been in 13th place since the beginning of June.
Yeah, it very well be. Let's at least mention this game as we sort of get you ready for it. LA Galaxy hosting Minnesota United on Wednesday, September 30th. This game scheduled for 7:30 p.m. TV time, 7:39 p.m. kickoff time. This game on Apple TV and MLS Season Pass here at Dignity Health Sports Park. So that's where everybody will be. These two matches, in these matches the Galaxy have played, they are 6-4-2 against Minnesota. The last time the LA Galaxy faced Minnesota earlier this year at Dignity Health Sports Park. Kevin, the LA Galaxy lost 3-2, not surprising. And then you go back to 2022, 1-1 draw and 3-3 draw in 2021. So the LA Galaxy and Minnesota have played each other interestingly whenever it has. This is one of the stats. They say Minnesota United is unbeaten in its last 4 matches against the Galaxy, win 2, draw 2, including the 3-2 road win in the last meeting between the sides in June. The Galaxy had gone unbeaten in its first 8 matches against the Loons, 6 wins and 2 draws, including the playoffs. The Galaxy are unbeaten in 6 straight regular season home matches, win 3, draw 3, after losing 4 of their previous 6 at home. LA hasn't had a longer regular season home unbeaten run in a single season since going 9 straight without losing at Dignity Health Sports Park in June, September of 2018. That was win 5, draw 4. All right. Let's see. One of my favorite ones, though, is Billy Sharp, 37 years old, and Maya Yoshida, 35 years old. Each scored for the Galaxy against LAFC on Saturday. The Galaxy have had 134 regular season goals scored by players at least 35 years old, 55 more than any other team in league history. The next person is 79. That's Chicago Fire. That was mostly Zlatan Ibrahimovic, wasn't it?
Yeah, that was a lot of Zlatan. And Robbie Keane probably.
And Robbie Keane. Yep, Robbie Keane. Maybe Landon Donovan in there a couple times as well. Yeah.
So what's been? Well, no, actually, Landon retired before he turned 35.
Yep.
Yeah. What's Minnesota's goal differential, by the way? It's a stout 0. Scored 34 and gave up 34.
I mean, that's not bad. I mean, that's better than being -10, right? And stuck in 13th place if you're the LA Galaxy. If you watch any of the games over the weekend, Kansas City beat Minnesota at home. That was a pretty big upset in terms of where everything stood, and really sort of gives the LA Galaxy their sights set on Minnesota. Kansas City is in front of the LA Galaxy as well, so interesting to watch. The LA Galaxy say they're also going to be winning their LA kit. So the LA kit, the green and the gold, are back for this particular game. Just looking at Minnesota, we always have the ever infamous now for the LA Galaxy, Reynoso, and Emmanuel Reynoso is the guy who's going to cause all the problems in this game. He's a terror against the LA Galaxy, always has been. The LA Galaxy midfield is going to have to try to figure out a way to contain him. Without Gaston Brugman, harder to do. Quite honestly, I don't know that Cerrillo can step up. Although I really like Edwin Cerrillo, I think he could be sort of the next starter over the years. So Cerrillo for me might be an option here, just because you're going to have a really athletic Reynoso going up, and he loves to just find spots and curl away from guys. So Raheem Edwards will be under pressure. I think Cuevas is going to be under pressure from Reynoso. Really interesting to see. And Dane St. Clair in goal. They're, as you said, 34 goals. Kevin is a pretty good defense in terms of goals against right now. So
And if the Galaxy get the 6-point week, which would be really difficult and would be a great accomplishment, but if they did that, they're still not guaranteed to get into a playoff spot. Yeah, they could potentially jump 3 teams, but depending on what Portland does, they may still trail Portland on goal differential. They may have the same points if Portland doesn't win. But so that's kind of where the Galaxy are. I mean, they could win 2 games, they could jump 3 teams and still not be in the playoff spot.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you could be just sitting outside. Portland got the win over Austin. We talked about that. Looking at other ones, Minnesota lost to Sporting Kansas City. Dallas 1-1 with Seattle. That was more or less a better move for the LA Galaxy there. Games coming up this Wednesday, so full game week on Wednesday or full match day going on. I'm looking for the West Coast games. Got to scroll down. Red Bulls and Austin. That's good. That means Austin, Kevin, is going to be in New York on Wednesday. They'll have to travel back to Austin. That's not a quick trip. That's a long trip to get all the way up to New York. So they'll play Red Bulls, so that's good news for the LA Galaxy there. Houston and Vancouver will be one that you'll want to watch. You want to watch Sporting Kansas City and Nashville. Colorado, don't care. Dallas and RSL is one to watch. Portland and San Jose is one to watch. So keep your eyes peeled to some of these games that are coming up because they all have LA Galaxy ramifications. And for the most part, the guys on the bottom are pressing hard and some of the guys on the top are faltering a little bit right now, which means everybody's meeting in the middle. That's not what the LA Galaxy need, Kevin. The LA Galaxy need the teams at the top of the conference to win and beat the teams at the bottom. So that way the Galaxy can do the opposite, which is beat the teams that they're going up against to climb through those other ones.
You know, the Galaxy, I don't believe, have any inter-conference games left. Everything is in the Western Conference. They don't play any Eastern Conference teams because there are a number of teams ahead of them that do play Eastern Conference teams at least once. And that's not a good thing for the Galaxy because you want those guys playing each other, so somebody loses points. But if Austin goes and plays, the Red Bulls, and it's not the kind of the double whammy that you get when you get 2 guys that you're chasing playing one another because someone's going to lose points.
Yeah, just again, the schedule as it goes right now is LA Galaxy hosting Minnesota, away to Austin, home to Portland, one of the 2 times they'll play Portland, away to Seattle, away to Minnesota, so the second game against Minnesota, that'll be game 3 against Minnesota. And then you have LA Galaxy hosting RSL and LA Galaxy hosting Dallas to end the season.
And remember that RSL game is the Hurricane game.
Yes.
That was the game that moved during the Hurricane.
It's the makeup, and it's during an international break. So we'll see how the LA Galaxy
which affects the Galaxy really not at all.
Well, I mean, Kelvin Leerdam, if he's not there, that's a problem. Zavaleta, in terms of a backup at the center back, that could be a problem. It does and it doesn't. I know what you're saying. Like, you're not seeing any starters that are probably going to go that way, but maybe Leerdam establishes himself as a starter at right back over Cuevas, because right now it's hit and miss with Cuevas. I think he'll get the start against Minnesota because they'll want his athleticism against Minnesota, who likes to sort of feed in from the wings, and with Reynosa switching sides all the time, it's going to be difficult. But Leerdam could easily establish himself as the starting right back before he goes into that international break.
What about Sharp? Pairing up with Harry Kane there for England. Yeah. Maybe he'll get called up.
I don't think so. I think we'll survive that. But,
maybe not. Okay.
But I do think that Billy Sharp is going to start, and possibly for the rest of the season, because I'm not seeing it from Joveljic, and that was very evident once again in this particular game. So that's what we got. Game coming up against Minnesota very, very shortly on Wednesday. I should be at that game, barring anybody picking up COVID again in this household. So I'll be out there on Wednesday night and to watch this game, and the Galaxy away to Austin on Sunday. So a lot to get through, a lot to talk about, a lot of fun. We'll have a game on Thursday that'll recap it all and get you ready for the weekend. Sounds pretty busy, Kevin. I'm glad you dressed up for this. That's good.
Yeah.
That's
well,
good.
Are you going to send Eric to Austin for that game on the weekend?
Yeah, I'm going to send him down. But as in, Eric, you should go to that game, but I'm not paying you, and don't call me because I'm going to be busy tweeting the game. But other than that,
because it's an award-winning podcast now. We got to take this stuff seriously. We have to be at every game now.
Oh, award-winning, something like that. Yeah, we just need to spread our wings and fly a little bit. Can I tell you about my 3.5-year-old? I wore this shirt this morning, and we were going to school, and he was kind of in a mood because he didn't want to go to school. So we're driving there, and he's like, "Daddy, you wore that shirt on Friday." And I'm like, "Oh yeah, I did wear a black shirt on Friday." He's like, "No, you wore that shirt on Friday." And I go, "Jake, I've reached an age now where I find that these V-necks are comfortable, and I like the color black, and it's almost like a work uniform. So I just bought 5 of them, and I can wear them whenever I want. And sometimes I just wear them day after day because I don't care anymore. I'm done. That's it." So my kid was calling out my fashion choices while he was sitting there with like a picture of like a fish on his shirt. I don't understand how that works.
I like fish.
Great. Great comment, Kevin. Way to close out the show on that one. All right, if you're looking for Mr. Kevin Baxter, oh no, I hit the wrong button. Oh no, it's all going crazy and wonky. You hit one wrong button, you panic, and you hit the other one.
You got to hit the Pato and Panda in the morning.
We nobody ever needs to hear that ever again. If you're looking for Mr. Kevin Baxter on Twitter, it's at KBaxter11. Head on over to LA Times for all of his soccer coverage. Please check him out, latimes.com. If you're looking for me on Twitter, it's at Guesman, JGUESMAN, and of course at Galaxy Podcast and at Galaxy Podcast on Threads, cornerofthegalaxy.com, YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, any place you can find us. We are there, approaching 1,100 shows very rapidly. Probably not by the end of this year, but very rapidly. Maybe the Galaxy make the playoffs. Maybe we hit 1,100 shows. Lots of things are still left up in the air. LA Galaxy, Minnesota on Wednesday, Austin on Sunday. For Mr. Kevin the Panda Baxter, I'm Josh Pato Guesman. You've been listening, you've been watching to Corner of the Galaxy from the box on cornerofthegalaxy.com. Have a great one, everybody.
You've been listening to the Corner of the Galaxy podcast on cornerofthegalaxy.com. You can follow the show on Twitter and Instagram at Galaxy Podcast. And be sure to check out and subscribe to iTunes, Stitcher, and Facebook by searching for Corner of the Galaxy. Fans, we thank you for listening, and we ask that you be kind and courteous to your neighbors as you leave the podcast. We thank you for joining us and look forward to seeing you again. Until then, I'm Michael Araujo, and on behalf of the entire Corner of the Galaxy crew, goodbye, everybody.